Hi, I'm Gina Merritt. I'd like to share with you my journey in hopes of getting you to join me in solving an important social challenge. I grew up without a mom and really without a dad. My mom died by suicide when I was 13 years old, and my dad is an alcoholic. This trauma should have made me a statistic. Instead, it propelled me to be hyper responsible, which had a dramatic impact on my life. As the eldest child, I cooked, I cleaned, I did the laundry, I helped the kids with their homework, I did the food shopping, and I made sure the Bureau of Child Welfare never came knocking at my door. A mother should always protect her four children. And at just 13 years old, that's exactly what I did. I protected my siblings and my father. This hyper responsibility affected all of the relationships in my life, including familial relations, my friendships, and eventually my employment. I often wonder what would have happened to me had I succumbed to my trauma, had I not been able to traverse the world of social connections, despite and in spite of my family situation. From a very early age, I had to be reliable, trustworthy, and ambitious in order to protect and support my family. When I was in high school, Miss Brown, a beautiful, perfectly spoken woman with a chocolate brown complexion, was one of my English teachers. I worked every day on English assignments and always did exceptionally well. I asked her one day, what would it take to get into the advanced placement classes that are part of the magnet program, which I had been removed from by a racist science teacher. Now that's a story for another day. She said, if you get an A on every assignment, I will recommend you for the AP English program, which I heartily did. She talked with me daily and provided encouragement. It was the only form of encouragement I had ever received in my life. I had no mama to encourage me. This made me believe in myself. This very proper black woman, who was unlike any black woman I had ever met, lent me some of her social capital that day, and it sent my life on a trajectory that I could have never imagined. As a child growing up, I had to contend with two very different social lives. One at home in my neighborhood, where I had to fit in with the other neighborhood girls, and the other at school, where I had to fit in with my classmates. At school, after winding up in AP classes, I felt most at home and comfortable with my peers, although there were only one or two black people in each AP class. At home in my neighborhood, I felt a lot less comfortable, like I was pretending, like I was trying to be something I was not. But I desperately needed to belong to the group and would do almost anything to be accepted, things I regret to this day. I suspect many brown children from low-income communities go through that, having to choose between which social group to belong to, having to choose between education and community. It was a struggle to stay on the right side of society, but Miss Brown's voice kept encouraging me, even after I had left the classroom, making me believe I could do anything I wanted. Her cultural and social capital helped get me elevated to all AP classes. My innovative solution evolved out of the work I do every day in the community development space. I'm a real estate developer that builds affordable housing. The projects I develop generally have socioeconomic goals for hiring people from low-income communities. In doing this work, I found that employers were hiring individuals that lasted 2 or 3 days or 2 to 3 weeks in their jobs. This really frustrated me. I had conversations with many people in the communities in which I work, and I knew that they were capable of maintaining employment. And I was so struggling to figure out why that was, where the disconnect was. My conversations with residents revealed that they just didn't know about where the job opportunities were, even though there were jobs in their neighborhoods, in buildings that were being built right next door. The lack of the knowledge of job opportunities was based on their lack of social capital. According to Bordeaux, a founding theorist of social capital theory, there are three basic types of capital: economic, cultural, and social. Most of us know what economic capital is: capital that can be converted immediately and directly into money. Cultural capital is tied to the educational system, and all of the holders of this capital can at some point convert it into economic capital. Cultural capital is generally grounded in skills and knowledge. Social capital is capital based on relationships that provide useful support when needed, and those relationships are built on trust. According to the author of Social Capital and Career Advancements for African Americans, Dr. Ayers, research studies demonstrate that more than 80% of jobs are found using social capital, and 70% of jobs aren't even published in the public realm. Bordeaux also states that the volume of social capital possessed by a given agent depends on the size of the network of connections he or she can effectively mobilize and on the volume of the capital, economic, cultural, or symbolic, possessed in his or her own right by each of those to whom he or she is connected. All of us have used social capital at one time or another to obtain something useful that we needed. You and I have connections to people that can help us navigate social networks so that we can obtain employment. Dealing with this issue in my everyday work pushed me to work on developing a solution to this problem. While developing my intervention, I spoke with employers who told me that they try to find people to work on their projects. When they do find someone that meets their needs, by the time construction starts, that person has found another job, and now they don't have time to vet anyone. They also say the referrals they receive from government sources lack the 3 skills they require to make an offer of employment: reliability, trustworthiness, and ambition. Social capital played a huge role in my ability to obtain employment. My father was employed with the Electric Company of New York, Con Edison. He was able to get me a job there during the summer before starting college. Prior to starting college, I wanted to be a psychologist. Then while working at Con Edison as a data entry clerk, I fell in love with the computer and wanted to know what was behind that machine. I changed my major to management information systems and became a computer programmer. This clearly demonstrates the impact of social capital, the impact of exposure to other networks. Then the summer after my first year of college, I got another job at Con Edison, this time in the time card filing room. I was supposed to file time cards all summer. Bored out of my mind, I filed my time cards in 2 or 3 hours each day, and then went into the accounting department and asked each of the 10 section heads if I could help them do their jobs. They welcomed the helping hands, and it helped build up the skills necessary to demonstrate solid work experience. During my second year of college, I submitted my resume to a temp agency to obtain summer employment. I got a job at Dean Witter Reynolds in the World Trade Center working in a data center. I loved that job. I learned everything I could about the job, and my managers loved me too. They even asked me not to go back to college and offered me a full-time employment. But you know who whispered in my ear? Mrs. Brown. So I politely turned that down. The following summer, I reached out to those same Dean Witter folks and asked them to help me get a job in computer programming. They landed me a job in programming with Dean Witter in 2 World Trade Center, which was one of the towers that came down in 2001. I got all of these jobs using my cultural and social capital. I wound up with amazing opportunities because of who I knew that could connect me to jobs, and those connections just kept expanding and providing me with more access. Low-income communities lack this kind of social capital. Many people in low-income communities are formerly incarcerated individuals, and they don't know many people that are employed. So they don't know where the job opportunities are. They don't know how to find them. This lack of social capital creates continuous unemployment, which is why I'm tackling the grand challenge of social work, reducing extreme economic inequality. Between 2012 and 2016, men of working age living in poor communities were unemployed at a 37% rate compared to a 19% rate in all other communities. According to Gallup, over 6,200 people from fragile communities, which are communities that lack financial resources and social mobility, were unemployed at a 10% rate compared to the national average of 4.1% in 2018. The government, of course, through public investment, tries to reduce unemployment for residents of low-income communities. For their investment, they expect developers, general contractors, and subcontractors to hire people from low-income communities. The problem is that employers hire people who are not ready to work. I am working on an innovative solution to help solve this problem. Workforce development programs obtain millions of dollars in funding to assist people from low income communities in gaining both hard and soft skills. They train people in construction, logistics, hospitality, and other hard skills. They also provide soft skills like workplace etiquette, resume building, and interview skills training. Unfortunately, many workforce development agencies don't have access to individuals with high value social capital. Can you imagine what it's like to live in a community where you see buildings under construction and going up every day that are financed with your tax dollars and you aren't even benefiting from them? You're walking your child to school or picking up groceries, and you see people driving up to a job site to the building next door and going to work every day, and you aren't. Can you imagine watching TV or checking your Instagram and learning about $50 million in government support a developer received for a $100 million building they're building in the neighborhood next door, and your friends and family are still unemployed? Imagine what it's like to have lived through trauma and to be resilient and strong because of it, and to know that you can perform if only someone would connect you to a job opportunity. People that live in low income communities are like all of us. We just want the ability to earn more income for ourselves and our families. We want the opportunity to go to work every day and to do a job that makes us and our families proud. Just think about how you would feel if you went from one workforce development program to another, just waiting for the opportunity for an interview for a job that you will never get a referral for. People spend lots of time in workforce development programs looking for connections to jobs and a stepping stone to a career. Right now, I'm working on a project in Baltimore where the government requires that developers and contractors hire people from the adjacent low income community. So I am actually implementing my intervention right now in the field. This intervention is based on a process that includes community outreach, employer cultivation, pre screening interviews, and creating a ready to work database and a not ready to work nonprofit social service referral system. It also includes an employment support system for those who obtain a job through our platform. My intervention is essentially a social capital platform that serves as a vehicle to connect ready to work individuals to job opportunities. The results of the interview process for those that are ready to work are that their resumes are categorized and placed in a database where employers can access the employment candidates. For my Baltimore project, I interviewed a man named Carl Jackson. Mr. Jackson was quite capable of maintaining employment. He had held challenging jobs like working with autistic adults for more than 4 years, and he demonstrated he was a highly reliable, trustworthy, and ambitious person. Mr. Jackson had been unemployed since last July. Mr. Jackson, unfortunately, has very little social capital. And that's just it. You or someone you know is an influencer or a decision maker in employment opportunities. Your social network may not include low income residents or returning citizens who are looking for a job, but still, you can bring those jobs you have influence over to low income communities by connecting with community based workforce development agencies. You can help change someone's life like Ms. Brown did mine. Please lend your social capital to low income communities. If you do, you can help create healthier communities for all of us to live, work, and play. Tomorrow morning, when you get to your office, search the internet for the contact information for your local nonprofit workforce development agency and let them know about a job you know of that you can connect their program participants to. These organizations need people like you with lots of social capital to help solve this problem. Thank you.